What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 23 My Team career mode. Last time out we were at the Chinese Grand Prix, and despite the fact that I was hoping that we might be able to go well there, it did not work out.
You handled that
we
well.
had a real struggle of a race. We managed to make up a few positions towards the end, but it was still only a P15 finish. So I'm hoping that we can go at least a little bit better here in Miami. We do have a couple of upgrades which are due to be arriving on the car in time for the Grand Prix. Hopefully they work out, hopefully they don't fail, and then we should be looking a little bit better, but whether it will be enough to get us back into the points, I don't know. We've only got a couple upgrades to the chassis coming on. We just need to keep investing in our upgrades and stuff like that. We're signing a few new sponsors to begin with because you know, I've decided maybe it's time to switch things up a little bit. So we're signing with this one, 7. The goal is to score 5 Constructors' Championship points during a weekend. I'm kind of thinking if these upgrades get on the car, we should be looking pretty good. And then I actually do re-sign with Pay Night in the end to qualify in P10 or better. So we've got rid of the one that's simply finishing in the top 10 now, and the aim is to score 5 Constructors' Championship points during a weekend, which is basically either a P8 and a P10 for the team, or 1 P7 at least is going to be how that's achievable. So yeah, we don't currently have any more upgrades that we can do, but hopefully once we get through our next set of weekly resources, we will be able to do some upgrades. But first of all, we do have the option to actually get a few more resource points from this event, which the trade-off was some acclaim, which I decided I was actually going to go with. I know typically I take the acclaim option, but when it was spending 500 resource points versus gaining 400, that kind of seemed like a bit of a no-brainer to me. You know, we need all the resource points we can get right now. That's basically the thing that's kind of, I don't know, limiting us in our development. It's not the cash, it's not the facilities, it's the actual resource points is what we need right now. So that's what I'm going to be primarily sort of looking towards getting, and then after that we will we'll try and focus on upgrading some more facilities and hoping we have the cash to do that, and then hopefully developing some more parts for the car. We're getting there slowly but surely. I think one of those chassis upgrades came on the car. We'll see if the other one succeeds or not now as we advance through time, and in fact did. Okay, so that's 2 upgrades we've got onto the car. Whether that will be enough to get us back into the points, I don't know. We will we'll find out, I guess. But yeah, we hopefully should have developed at least closer to some of the cars. I am a little bit worried, of course, that you know, they're developing as well. That's something you always have to take into consideration with these things, is just because you've got an upgrade onto your car, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're the only one. So we'll take a look at the performance index and we will compare ourselves to the other cars on the grid, see where we are, progress history, and yeah, basically everyone ahead of us except Alpine made a big leap forward between China and today, kind of negating pretty much any bonus I made. At least the cars behind didn't make much of a jump, so I should be able to beat them quite comfortably now, I would say. But yeah, Aston Martin are the fastest car in Formula 1 at the moment. So that is a little bit of a surprise, I would say. I don't think they quite have the driver lineup to contend for victories at the moment. Magnussen and Stroll isn't exactly a championship-winning combo, you would have to say. And this is coming from someone who is a big fan of Kevin Magnussen. Do I think that he has passed his best a little bit? Yes, I do. So maybe his opportunity to win a championship is pretty unlikely, even in the fastest car on the grid. I still think that the ball firmly lies in the court of Red Bull and Mercedes this season, and we will see what happens over the course of the race weekend. It was a rainy practice. We did set the fastest time, but I don't think it's particularly representative. You know, it rarely ever is in these kinds of sessions when it's raining, and I think this was unfortunately just one of those situations. You know, I went out when the track was kind of at its driest, and not many people really went out at that time. I also did the quali pace program, so I was literally pushing flat out. You know, it was very much just a kind of, let's do the fastest lap we possibly can in the session. We got the fastest lap overall, but do I think that we're going to be contending for pole here in qualifying? No, I don't, not at all. We're going to get an air upgrade, which is going to come on the car in time for Canada, along with a chassis upgrade, which we've already scheduled. So the hope is that even if we don't make a massive step forward here compared to most of the AI today, we should be able to make another step forward in time for Canada. So there'll be this race, and then there'll be Imola, Monaco, and then we should have another bit of a jump forward in time for Canada. Of course, I think Baku and Spain are missing from the calendar this season. I can't remember what the other race is. I think it might be Qatar, but I could be wrong. But yeah, either way, we are now going to get into qualifying. I feel like the aim for this one is probably to make it through to Q3, I would say. We'll see if the upgrades have worked a little bit. Yes, we're still only the 7th fastest car in Formula 1, but you know, I always turn it up for qualifying. You know what it's like. So I'm hoping that we should be at least somewhat competitive here, and we'll see what kind of time we can do as we come up to the line. It is a 1:27.9, and we're not even faster than the Hasses, man. What is that? This was on a fresh set of tyres. This is unbelievable. They're one of the worst cars on the grid at the moment, and comfortably slower than us, so I'm not sure what that's about. But fortunately, we managed to improve on another fresh set of tyres. We were actually down in P22, so we were even behind our teammate. It must have been a bad lap from me. 1:26.9 was what I did for my second lap, and that was good enough to put us P12, and it got us through to Q2. But we're going to need a lot more than that if we want to get through to Q3. I feel like I did have more pace in hand. I think I probably could contend sort of in that sort of P8, P9 range, looking at where everyone else was. So as long as that's where everyone is in Q2, we should be able to make it through to Q3, hopefully. Eliminated here was Hulkenberg, Joe, De Vries, Lawson, Hauger, and Fittipaldi. Hauger back down in P21. That's actually very disappointing, in my opinion. You know, we made these upgrades, which I'm hoping was going to get him to at least move ahead of all of these guys in this sort of bottom pack, as it were, but it hasn't happened on this occasion. So, yeah, still I'd say China, the only race where I feel like Hauger really did do well. We go out on a used set of soft compound tyres to start here in Q2, and it is a 1:27.6. So actually that was faster than our time on a fresh set of tyres, our first time in Q1. But we obviously did improve on that to a 1:26.9. So we'll see what we can do in relation to that. The 1:27.6 was only good enough for P16. So we are going to have to improve quite significantly here. Stroll there on a 1:26.5, and I've only got a few more corners left, and I need to be about 1.1 seconds ahead in order to beat him. Keep in mind he's on the fastest car on the grid, so that's a bit of a disappointing qualifying for him to only be P12. We do make up quite a lot of time for that final few corners, but it's not enough. It's only a 1:26.7. Where does it put us? P15. Wow, that is a lot worse than I thought it was going to be. I was expecting 13. Honestly, I was thinking we were going to be behind Stroll, but I guess that mid-pack was quite close, and indeed it was, yeah. Albon in the 1:26.6s along with Gasly, and then myself 1:26.7. If I'd have gone like a 10th faster, I would have been P13, but you know, we can talk if, buts, and maybes all day. We are out, along with Tsunoda and Stroll and Albon, Gasly, and Sargent. So yeah, a disappointing result there for us, I would say. I was definitely hoping to at least, you know, even if I wasn't necessarily through Q3, I was hoping top 12 minimum, sort of. With the pace we were showing, I was thinking maybe we might just about be able to start contending with the Alpines, but we couldn't even contend with Albon and Tsunoda. I mean, what is that? They're comfortably slower cars than us at the moment. That is really, really disappointing. And the misery just seems to keep compounding at the moment in this season. You know, we had that ecstatic high of a podium to kick off the season, and since then it's kind of been just absolutely washed from us. I guess the AI have been developing at a faster rate than us, as we expected they probably would. But this is even more unprecedented than I was expecting. So from P15 on the grid now, we're going to have to try and fight our way through for some points. You know, I don't want to go another race without points if I can help it. So we will see if we can make up at least 5 positions as we get into the Miami Grand Prix.
Florida is no stranger to world-class sport. The USA Sunshine State now on the F1 calendar in a truly wonderful city. It's the Miami Grand Prix. With great opportunities for wheel-to-wheel battles featuring 19 corners, 3.36 miles long, and expected average speeds of 138 miles per hour, the Miami International Autodrome will be sure to create lots of chances to overtake. let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Sergio Perez will lead us away from pole position, and Lando Norris lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Russell, Oscar Piastri, Verstappen, Bottas, Magnussen, Sainz, Leclerc, Ocon, Tsunoda, Stroll, Albon, Gasly, Robinson, Sargent, Hulkenberg, Joe, De Vries, Liam Lawson, Hauger, and Enzo Fittipaldi. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? And we welcome Anthony Davidson to the commentary box once again. And how does the driver set themselves apart from the rest of the pack today?
My focus is 100% on the front of the grid. Like you said, we're seeing a lot of strong competition across those positions, so it would be super interesting to see the fight for that front spot. Personally speaking, I'm hoping for plenty of overtakes.
I'm hoping for plenty of overtakes too, but I'm hoping that they are on my side and that we can make up a number of positions early in this race to hopefully contend at least a few positions ahead of where we are. We need to beat Albon and Tsunoda at a minimum here, really. You know, if we don't beat those guys, what are we even doing at this point with this car? I don't understand how in cars that are supposed to be significantly slower than ours, they're pulling off performances like this. But I guess it's just about the performance index can be deceiving sometimes, in that just because you have a car that appears like it's not as fast, it just means it's not as I don't really know, like the specification of it is not as high as the other cars, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily slower, because it could just mean that you've invested in various things that other people haven't. You know, like ERS isn't necessarily going to make a faster car, but you know, we'll see whether we're faster than in race trim as we get to the lights coming on and the lights go out. And we've gotten away well here compared to Albon, and it looks like also Tsunoda, to be fair, is going quite slowly. Leclerc slow too, as we try and go around the outside at turn 1, and we are up a number of positions there. How many positions is that? We were P15, right? So that's 8 positions we have gained off of the start. I couldn't even tell you all the people I just overtook, as Magnussen now in the Aston Martin is fighting me back. But wow, that was a start and a half coming out there. Not quite what I was expecting, but I'm very, very happy with that. We are up and into the points, and we'll see if we can hold on to this for the duration of the 29 laps of the Miami Grand Prix. We're going to try and stay with Kevin Magnussen here, but you know, he is in that absolutely overpowered Aston Martin. Perhaps he'll do a little bit better in race trim compared to how his qualifying went. Of course, it was only P7 for him in qualifying, which for the fastest car on the grid, you would be hoping to do a little bit better than that. This is a man who actually won a race on pace last season at the French Grand Prix when he was still driving for Haas. So yeah, he will be hoping to do a little bit better than he is currently doing, I am sure. But yeah, we're actually doing quite well to stick to the back of him. Although I say that, as soon as we get into the straight, he just absolutely pulls away like nothing. They do have the strongest aero package on the grid, so assumedly a lot of that is stuff like drag reduction and you know, making sure that you can get a lot of downforce without compromising straight line speed, that kind of thing. So it's not too surprising to see that he will pull away from me in a straight line, even if our aero is where we were strong in the past. I think our car is a bit more well-rounded than that now. You know, our chassis and our aero are quite similar in terms of performance. I think it's our engine that is probably the really limiting factor, but we need to invest in a Spec 3 facility before we can do any more upgrades to the engine, so we will we'll have to wait for that. But as we move on to lap 3 now, you can see that Magnussen has broken away out of DRS range, but the DRS has been enabled, so we should be coming under pressure from Esteban Ocon pretty soon, you would have to say. And indeed, as he comes through with the DRS, Max Verstappen actually tries to follow him through, but we say no to Max Verstappen on this occasion. We let Ocon through because we couldn't fight him hard enough, unfortunately, and that is us down into P9 for the time being. But I imagine I will be coming under more pressure from the cars behind as these laps go on. We're still not as fast as them. You know, Red Bull are the second fastest car on the grid. Perez had pole here. He actually denied George Russell the pole, although it looks like, if you look on the minimap, that George Russell has made his way through into the lead. So yeah, a good start from the Mercedes man. As we think about going for a move up the inside of Ocon, we have to bail out of it, and in the end that allows Verstappen to get through, and there is a yellow flag directly behind us. I think that's Leclerc has stopped on track for something. Not sure what that's about. we'll see in a second. But there is a red flag for this incident with Charles Leclerc. So yeah, we're gonna have to watch that one back because I have no idea what happened behind me there. I was too focused on my own race. So here's Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. He's coming into the braking zone, and does he just drop it by himself? Or yeah, he just gets way too deep. And that's an Alfa Romeo there that's driven into him. I think that might be Sonoda. I could be wrong about that. I'm not quite sure who drove into him there, but yeah, you can see why that brought out a red flag. Anyway, let's see what the strategy is likely to be once we restart. So we're going to be restarting lap 5, and we're going to be doing a 12-lap stint on the mediums, followed by another 12-lap stint on a second set of mediums. I quite like this strategy. I think the mediums will work quite well around here. So we will see what we can do as we get ready to go. As the lights come on again. And the lights go out again, and we've gotten away well once again. It looks like we just need only starts in Formula 1, and we should be absolutely laughing. Look at how high we're flying right now. We're briefly into P4 ahead of Lando Norris. This is a man who started on the front row of the grid, for goodness sake. I mean, we're never going to keep him behind. And indeed, he's already made his way back through, and here comes Carlos Sainz as well. But yeah, we're almost up onto the podium. You know, that's somewhere I'm completely unfamiliar with by this point. Having seen it a number of times before, I feel like it's a completely foreign space to me with the pace that our car has shown in the previous few races. But one day we will be back there for sure. Today will not be that day. Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz already breaking away by an absolutely absurd margin. You can see that that's Norris almost a second ahead. We were ahead of him at one point on this lap, and he is just too fast for us to stay with, I think. We're going to try our hardest to keep with them through the Mickey Mouse section, but I don't think that it's going to bear much fruit for us, unfortunately, and we are just going to have to bide our time and try and defend from the cars behind us. Once again, it's Max Verstappen behind us. That seems familiar because he's already overtaken us once in this race, but we managed to overtake him on the red flag restart. So yeah, hopefully we can keep him behind for a bit longer, but he is on the soft compound tyres this time. So I feel like it may be a bit of a foregone conclusion here between myself and the two-time world champion. But yeah, we're looking incredibly good right now, up in P6. Even if Max Verstappen does get ahead of us, which he's going to try and do here into turn 1, can we defend from him? I'm not sure if we can, to be honest, but it looks like, wow, okay, we actually we got into the curb a little bit, and that gave me a massive wash of understeer, which meant I kind of accidentally squeezed him out. But, you know, we're still in P6 for the time being. But yeah, I was saying, even if we don't stay here, I think we've done remarkably well. And we're looking like we have a very good chance of scoring points here if we can just defend this position for all it's worth. You know, there's alternate strategies going on here. I reckon the hard compound tyres, those people on hard compound tyres are probably going to try and go to the end. But anyone on mediums or softs is going to have to make another pit stop here. So Verstappen now making the overtake into the Mickey Mouse section, but we'll see if we can keep with him and try and overtake him in the long DRS zone coming up. But I just remembered, I don't think DRS has been enabled yet because it's only the second lap since the restart, so we may be unable to stay with him, and this may be us down legitimately into P7. We progress on a few laps now, and we're on to lap 9. Verstappen has broken far away, but we have actually done a pretty good job of pocketing Kevin Magnussen in the Aston Martin. He is doing pretty well to try and overtake me here, but yeah, we've done quite well to keep him behind for as long as we have. Fastest car on the grid at the moment, of course. Eventually he does overtake us into the Mickey Mouse section, but once again we're going to have the DRS here, so I don't think that this is over. If we can just try and stay with him, not have him break away from us too much. You know, he's got that OP aero package, which is allowing him to break away in the straights. Probably a faster engine too, for good measure. But yeah, we're somehow managing to catch him with the DRS. We burned a bit of battery earlier in the lap, and we're going to go to the inside at the final hairpin as we move into the last few corners of the lap. It feels so dumb this isn't the final corner, you know what I mean? Like, it's a really significant corner, whereas these ones are just taken flat out. So I think Martin Brundle would call that the last real corner, probably. But officially it is not the final corner on the track. But either way, lap 10, we are still running in the points, and we are looking very good right now. We move on through the lap a little bit, and we are coming under pressure this time from the Mercedes man, or Valtteri Bottas. Having a difficult start to the season this time. You know, he didn't have the best start to the season last season either, though, so I'm not worried about him. I'm sure that he'll bounce back and maybe pick up a few wins this season. He can't let all of them go to his teammate George Russell. So I'm sure Bottas will definitely be in the hunt for a few victories this season. But either way, I'm going to try and keep him out of the hunt for P7 here if I can, as we're now going to get the battery and the DRS. We're going to see if we can do what we did to Magnussen on the previous lap, this time to Bottas. But he is defending to the inside, so we're actually going to have to try and go the long way around on Bottas this time. He is on the hard compound tyres. We're going to keep our tyre in to his rear right tyre this time, and we just about managed to stay alongside him. We're going to have the DRS again, but he's just a little bit too pacey. We're going to try and dive up the inside at the first corner if we can, and we squeeze him out, and we are back up into P7. So, yeah, defending this position well. I do think that we have a chance of scoring some points here today. It's not absolutely guaranteed because these guys are pretty fast, but I'm feeling optimistic. You know, cautiously optimistic is how I would describe my chances here today. We just need to try and keep our head down, try and keep in the fight. Bottas overtaking us there. We will get the DRS on him once again. But this is probably the most difficult DRS zone to try and overtake people into. You need to be so close with them. And you can see that with his superior car, he's just broken away from me there. And unfortunately, I don't think that is going to allow us to stay with him. And we are probably falling down into P8 now, I would say. But, you know, we kept with him for a while. Lap 13. We've still got 2 positions that we can give up before we've got to really start worrying about not scoring any points here. And, yeah, we move a couple laps forward now. And we are still in P8. We're doing well. We have really kept the Aston Martins at bay here. Not something I was expecting at all, so I'm really, really happy with the performance that we've shown here at the halfway point in the race. I think it might be over at this point. Here comes Magnussen and Gasly too, actually, so that's 2 positions lost in one short sequence. Really, really disappointing. We'll see if we can use the slipstream to try and get back ahead of Gasly. But he's going to try and go wheel to wheel up the inside of Magnussen. We have to kind of bail out there, or we were going to go into the back of one of those guys. And that almost allows Leclerc, with his 5-second penalty for bringing out a red flag, that allows him into the fight a little bit. But he can't quite make the move. So we do manage to stay in P10. But any more overtakes that get made on us now, that's going to be really bad news. As we move a couple laps into the future, and George Russell has actually pitted from the lead of the race. He is on the medium tyres and going to the end. But we're coming under pressure first and foremost by the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. And I think a few cars have pitted at this point, including Verstappen, who was ahead as well. So this is actually going to be net P11, I think, because Russell and Verstappen are going to overtake me once I pit. So we're out of the points officially now. Once everything sort of moves back to normal, once all the pit stops are done. We're going to be pitting on the following lap. But first of all, we've got bigger things to worry about here, like the 4-time race winner this season, George Russell, who is right up my gearbox going into the final hairpin. He's going to try and make a move to the inside. Is he? Not quite, but I'm sure he will get a better exit from this corner than I will. And we are going to be coming under pressure. He's actually going to try and go around the outside here, which I do not understand why he would do that. Why he wouldn't try and punt for the inside instead. Either way, he's managed to make it work. You know, he's on much fresher tyres than me. It was kind of a non-contest in a car as fast as his. And yeah, that is us down into P10, which will become P11 once Verstappen has pitted. Oh, sorry, once I've pitted, because Verstappen has already pitted, of course. So Verstappen almost a full pit stop in front of me as well, actually. And suddenly his strategy is looking pretty good, because he could be in the box seat to get a podium this race, I reckon. With the pace that he is, showing here. He's only a second off of Russell, who also was in for a podium. I don't know if any of the other cars in the mix have opted for the hard compound strategy instead, but I guess we'll find out. Either way, it is now time for our box lap, and we are going to be coming in and fitting another set of medium tyres to the end of the race. So I have to hope that we have some good pace on these, because we're basically going to need to try and close down a few people. Keep in mind also that Lance Stroll pitted on the previous lap, which I think might have given him scope to undercut me, which is a bit frustrating because we've managed to stay ahead of him for pretty much this entire race. but I think he is going to get ahead of us here. And you can see that it's not even really actually that close. He's, you know, sort of 3 seconds ahead out of the pit stop. So, yeah, that is probably the end of my chances of beating Stroll. Gasly ahead too. Of course, he already overtook me. And as we move many laps into the future, you can see that in the end, I just kind of fell into a bit of a no man's land, as often happens in the second stint of a race. You know, we have a competitive first stint, but then in the second stint, we just kind of fall away from everyone, and yeah, we find ourselves sort of 10 seconds ahead of the nearest car behind, and 10 seconds behind the nearest car in front. So, yeah, not much I can really do here, but we'll see what we can. One thing that perhaps might be of interest here is that Esteban Ocon is losing a lot of time to us at this point. Obviously, he's been on that set of hard compound tyres for almost 20 laps, so I guess it makes sense that it wouldn't have quite as much performance as my fresh-ish mediums at this point, and maybe there is a chance to catch up with him, but 7 seconds in 6 laps is not going to be easy. Here's my teammate, Dennis Hauger, and yeah, for the second race in a row, he is retiring. It's a shame because he had actually made up quite a few positions. I don't know if it was on strategy or on pace or what, but either way, he was up into about P16, 17. He wasn't doing too badly here, so I'm a little bit disappointed about that, but his race is over. He actually ended up parking up on the middle of the circuit, which would have almost certainly brought out a safety car if it hadn't been on lap 26, and there were already some cars on lap 27. Interestingly enough, when we were catching the hard compound tyres, it wasn't Ocon I caught first, it was Leclerc, because he had a mechanical problem. He's also got that 5-second penalty, so this is basically guaranteed that we're going to beat him now, with only a little over a lap to go. There's no way we lose 5 seconds to him unless I pick up a penalty of my own. But we're going to try and blitz past him with the DRS here. He's probably going to try and fight this one back, you would have to guess, and indeed he is. As we go to the hairpin, he's going to try and go up the inside, but that mechanical problem not doing him any favours. We're going to burn a little bit of battery just to make sure that we can keep him behind. And as we move onto the final lap of the Grand Prix, it is going to be P12 for us most likely, unless we can catch up those 2.5 seconds to Ocon. You know, in a way, I'm a little bit glad because I would hate to get another P11 this season. You know, we were turning into a bit of a P11 merchant at one point. The downside is, of course, we are in a rivalry with Esteban Ocon, and that rivalry will only continue as a result of this race, because we just can't quite seem to beat him at the moment. We need to develop further. I actually think I'm probably going to lose this rivalry unless he has a DNF, and if I have a DNF, I'm just screwed. It's just completely over. But, yeah, unfortunately, not quite the points that we were gunning for, but either way, we showed a bit more promise this race compared to previous races, and we're going to round the final corner to take P12.
So Mercedes have won it, and what a great race it was. Ant, talk to me. What do you think it was that sealed the win for them?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again.
This man is unstoppable at the moment. The podium consists of Russell, Verstappen and Perez. I'm tripping over my words so much today, man. I don't know what's going on with me. But yeah, Russell just completely on fire. 5 race wins from 5 races so far this season. Nobody can even get close to him. I reckon he could have this championship wrapped up by about race 15 at the rate he's going. This is almost unheard of.
So then, it's time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. That's a positive result for George Russell, who further solidifies his position at the top of the standings. Let's focus on Driver of the Day, Anthony Davidson. Who do you pick?
But there's no question in my mind, it has to go to George Russell. What a performance. He's got every right to be proud of what he accomplished out there today.
Let's move on to the Constructors. The lead at the top comes down after a strong weekend from the challenging pack. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Well, it's interesting, this situation that we find ourselves in. I was thinking that the upgrades were maybe going to get us into the points. So I guess the answer to did the upgrades work is kind of, because we were running in the points for a lot of the race. But unfortunately, we weren't running in the points when we took the checkered flag, which is kind of the part of the race you'd want to be running in the points in. You know, I benefited very heavily from 2 strong starts on the red flag restart and at the actual start. So I don't know if we can say that necessarily my pace is reflective of a podium, not podium, but a points performance. We obviously qualified P15. That's something we do have to remember, that we had not even enough pace to out-qualify cars who are supposed to be behind us. So, yeah, I don't know. I think we've still got some work to do, some upgrades to get onto the car. We're slowly in the process of making those happen. So, hopefully, we should be fighting further towards the front, even if not at the front. Hopefully, at least in the points, mixing it up with the Alpines and Aston Martins. You know, I was expecting that Aston Martin was sort of going to be sort of a midfield car along with us and Alpine, but it seems like they've actually managed to develop at a faster rate than I was expecting. So they've done an incredibly good job to get there. I'm not really sure what more we can do until we get more upgrades on the car. We just have to be patient. I think that's the bottom line. You know, I can do all this dropping the difficulty stuff, but that's kind of feels like a bit of an illegitimate way to handle the issue. You know what I mean? I don't think the AI are outright faster than me necessarily. It's just that obviously I play with medium traction control, which does hinder me a little bit in terms of my raw speed. That's something, of course, I do have to take into consideration. And we also, yeah, we just don't quite have the car to race with the 6 teams in front of us. So realistically, it's going to be a wealth of, you know, P11s, P12s, P13s, that kind of level of performance until we upgrade the car more. Am I worried that we're not going to grab 100 points by the end of the season? No, not really. We've still got so long to do it that as soon as our car gets into that sort of window where it can score consistent points, we just have to do it. You know, we just have to hope our reliability is good, which I think it is. Now, we do have a few more upgrades that we could do if we upgrade the facility, which I think I probably will try and focus on doing as soon as I've done the engine one, because I think I just want to get a completely maxed out car, and then we can focus on improving our teammates' performance. But yeah, if we can make sure that we can perform well once our car has the potential to score points, we should be absolutely fine to meet the sponsorship obligation, I would imagine, and it's not something I need to panic about too much. But that is going to be it for today's video. So if you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.